Good day, everyone. My name is Aries Montera, together with my co-researchers, Kim Esperanza, Colynn Dela Cruz, Mon Ian Janier, and Alcoverez. In this video presentation, we're going to tackle about our research entitled Utilizing Aggregate Sand, Yokyama Cottony, and Hibiscus Rosa sinensis for the modification of fire retardant coating, insulating wood materials for domestic purposes. Now, I will tackle about the abstract and the introduction of our study. The protection of the residents as well as their assets from the effects of fire is important. The aggregate sand Yokyama cottony Hibiscus rosa sinensis for the modification of fire retardant coating insulating modern materials is being used for home purposes. The focus of this study is to determine if there are significant differences with the time length of the resistance of wood coated by retardant and wood coated with ordinary paint upon contact with an average heat temperature and its effectiveness for fire resistance. Materials that being used for coatings are aggregate sand, Yokyama cottony, Hibiscus rosa sinensis, were being boiled and mixed for the production of coating. The result were also observed and estimated. Time frame of the fire resistance of the sample were calculated and compared. Fire disasters were one of the biggest issues that our country continuously experiences up to this day, and leaving 1,000 of deaths and billion worth damaged property. The purpose of this study is to create a fire retardant coating to prevent from fire incidents. And this could help that fire does not spread in case of fire in houses. The fire retardant coating generates shields or barriers so that the fire could not spread easily. For the statement of the problem and hypothesis to be tackled by Kim Esperanza.
Statement of the problem. This study aims to magnify the effectiveness of fire retardant coatings on wooden materials that were used domestically. Specifically, this research intends to answer the following problems. Number 1. What is the average time length the fire retardant coated material could resist outbursts upon contact with fire? Number 2. Is there a significant difference between fire retardant coated wooden materials and ordinarily painted wooden materials? Number 3. What makes the study unique? Hypothesis of the study. This study sought to measure the effectiveness of utilized aggregate sand, Yokyama cottony, and Hibiscus rosa sinensis to the modification of fire retardant coating that could insulate wooden materials. Due to the statement of the problem, the following hypotheses were formulated. Number 1. There are no significant differences in the length of time of the resistant between the ordinary coated wooden materials and wooden materials coated with fire retardant coating made of utilized aggregate sand, Yokyama cottony, and Hibiscus rosa sinensis. Number 2. The study have no significance. To continue the presentation of significance of the study, Colynn de la Cruz will present to you the significance of the study.
As the focus of the proponents' innovation were the well-being of the domestic community's livelihood, this study would be of great significance to first, their safety. Since flames could cause a number of major threats to everyone, this proposal would be of good help to mitigate the risks of inevitable mishaps. Considering the purpose of the finished product is to lengthen the time of resistance of the wooden substrates that commonly causes an ablaze. Second, to the domestic assets and properties of the community. Houses, buildings, equipment at home, cars, and such things of great value would be kept and protected, for disastrous fires would be prevented through the success of this study. Then, this study would be of great help to the budgeting of the risk reduction planning of the residents, with the aggregate sand, cottony, and hibiscus as the primary materials. The overall cost of the fire retardant coating would be affordable, for these raw materials were organic and can be found and handpicked almost for free. Yet, for whatever inferences the outcome of this study may provide, its specific understanding was established for the special consideration of first, its subject. This study was hereby conducted only to measure the effectiveness of the coating in resisting a blaze. This study focuses on the measuring of the time duration of the resistance of a wooden material coated with their utilized fire retardant coating, and then it would be compared to a wooden material coated with an ordinary coating. This study will be conducted at Camilla Street, Barangay Washington, and around Purok Matinabangon, Espina Street, Surigao City. For the production of the coating, the proponents prepared the raw materials, which were the aggregate sand, Hikema or guso, and hibiscus, or Hibiscus rosa sinensis, a pot, a strainer, a container, a 25mm synthetic paintbrush, a stirring rod, a wooden substrate as a sample, a candle, an enamel paint, and a stopwatch were also gathered. Then, they started with the extraction of the wetting agent and the oil from cottony and hibiscus through boiling it and mushing it respectively. The excess were strained to separate the liquids from the solid remains. The aggregate sand, on the other hand, was filtered to ensure that there will be no uneven sizes like pebbles left on the sand, for it will be the main reason of the capability of the fire resistance of the coating because of its non-combustibility. The prepared raw materials were then mixed into the container and once again strained for smoothing. The finished product was then varnished into 3 different wooden samples. Their proponents also coated another 3 wooden samples with an ordinary coating, for it will be used for comparison. All the samples then underwent an experimentation, which is its application to an open flame with an average heat temperature. The samples were observed under 3 different trials, and with the help of a stopwatch, the time duration the wooden samples resisted the ignition before it burned were recorded into a table. The proponents analyzed the data and calculated the findings using a t-test statistical tool to solve whether there would be significant differences between the results of the trials. For the discussion of the results and the elaboration of the findings, let us have Mon Ian.
So based on the observation and the experimentation, we have come up with the following results and findings. So in the first testing of sample, which is wood coated with utilized fire retardant, the first trial resulted in 3 minutes and 3 seconds. This means that after 3 minutes and 3 seconds, the wooden sample will stop resisting ignition. On second trial, we have 3 minutes and 49 seconds, and on third, 3 minutes and 7 seconds. So, summing up this result and divided on the number of trials, we now have the average duration of the trial, which is 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Moving on, in the second testing of sample, which is wood coated with ordinary paint, the first trial resulted in 0.3 seconds. On second trial, 0.2 seconds, and on third, 0.3 seconds. So with this gathered data, we can now determine if there is a significant difference between the 2 samples on their time length in resisting fire. So using a statistical tool, we now have the results. So based on the result, there is no significant difference between the 2 samples on their time length in resisting fire. This is because the p-value of the sample is greater than the significance level of the alpha, which is 0.05. So to continue our presentation, let us have Alcoverez.
Conclusion. In generally, based upon the result of the experiment of the proponents, is there no have significant differences in between of the time length of resistance of the fire retardant coated wooden sample and the time length of the resistance of the ordinary coated wooden sample when in contact with fire. Or there is very small probability that the results of these trials are significant, but it not that mean that the coating made from aggregate sand and hibiscus rosa sinensis is ineffective. The coating is quite effective for fire resistance when applied to a wooden sample. This also features a great potential to be used as eco-friendly, while at the identical, it preserves the environment. In the recommendations, due to lack of equipment in Surigao City, the proponents are unable to run additional tests. For this reason, the proponents have suggested the following recommendations. Here is the first one. The proponents recommend for the future researchers to include toxicity tests in order to examine if there will be an adverse effect to health and environment in using the coating material. The second one, the proponents recommend for the future researchers to test the thermal capacitance of the coating material to supply more information in terms of how much heat it can resist. And the last one, it is recommended that the future researchers should also try to add more material to improve the resistance of the coating material and increase its duration. That's all.